today's life, I want to talk about food combining. A lot of us, this is Madam Grace, President and Founder, NGO Foundation, here today to talk about food combining and how it affects our gut health and our health generally. Combining two foods together, two or more foods as a matter of fact. There are various reasons why people do that, why it is done, and the origin of it is even not known. It's known though, but I do not agree with the saying that somebody founded it, because for several years there has been the issue of combining two foods together, on and on. And what exactly is the meaning, or what does it mean to combine foods together? In my view, it simply means two different food that could be eaten separately with its own components, consuming them together. That is, putting them, whether cooked or not, but putting them together in one meal, or consuming them at the same time, whether mixing together or consuming them separately but together for a particular reason or whatever. That is combining food together. We have a lot of foods we combine here for various reasons, which we shall talk about. Foods like beans and rice. But before I go deep into the discussion or topic, or subject rather, it's important for me to state that the discussion is focusing on healthy foods, because this is healthy food place. And when we are talking of combining food, I will not be delving into the highly processed foods that are all over the place, the highly packaged foods. I will not be going to that aspect, because that will draw us away from our main focus. And so I'm going to be streamlining the discussion to healthy foods, combining two healthy foods together, or consuming them together for whatever reason. So it's important to state that. And so there are several foods that are combined for various reasons, for centuries and for several years. I grew up to meet some of them, and today there are even more sophisticated combinations, all kinds of smoothies that are even being talked about today. But before this, foods were still being combined. And that is why I do not want to go into the origin of it, or when it was started. Actually went through some subjects and topics and found out a few, a few opinions about that. But that is not my opinion. Combining foods, examples of food that people have been combining long time ago are foods like rice and beans and yam, beans and bread, pap and moi moi or beans. Remember that those of us who are living or watching from very far away may not understand very well some of the foods that are commonly consumed here, because each region is unique in its own way. And so in this area, Our people are known for consuming foods like beans and gari, or that is consuming cooked beans with uh, this tapioca flakes or powder, or whichever way, and soaking it together or mixing it dry to eat. This is also another way another food people consume. People also consume bread and peanuts. People also consume peanuts and gari. We consume tea, milk and bread. We consume fried egg, meat and the stuff. We consume banana, peanuts, and all of that. We also consume foods like rice and plantain with stew. That is a very common one. I remember those days. I used to like it a lot. And so the list can continue on and on and on. It's endless foods that are combined. And what are the reasons for these combinations? The reasons are obvious. We want to get a better feeling. Maybe one is not feeling enough, and then the other one may give us more satiety that we are full, we are okay. And also people combine foods because they believe or that one has what the other one doesn't have. That is, they try to imagine that this one is protein and this one is this. That is at a more higher level of it, because some people don't actually care what they consume. They just consume anything together. As a matter of fact, we have had cases of even food poisoning. We have had rare cases of food poisoning. Whether it's true or not, we had no confirmation of, but these are stories that we heard of people who consumed certain foods together and they died. We just heard it. I heard some, like somebody said consume mango and gari. I think after consuming mango and gari together and died, and consuming banana and eggs, so many things like that we hear that people did ignorantly, and some of them either could not make it for maybe due to wrong or poor combination. And so the combining of food is endless and has been, is still on, and is going to continue, because the reason for the combination also is for synergy purpose. Some of us believe that some foods are not complete without the other one. And another reason also why foods are combined, especially with the nutritionist, the dietitian, the health conscious, and the educated class, foods are combined for reasons such as for easy digestion, for easy absorption, for more nutrients availability, to have more access to a wider range of nutrients, for better feeling of that hunger that we are full, and then for various other reasons as well. We can go on and on. Some people do not even know why they are combining any food at all, but they just feel that they don't feel satisfied until they have consumed this, consumed that. And of course, we know that In this part of the world, many times we eat or consume food without mindful of the content of the food we are consuming, because we know the major components: protein, fat, fat and oil, carbohydrates, uh, and starch, all of that. You know, it has to have fat, basically protein, carbohydrates, that's oil and fat, vitamins, minerals, and the basic things that helps to keep a healthy body. Now, when we are consuming these foods, some people just consume two foods that have the same components together all through, without considering how their gut will work on it, or how digestion takes place. How does it go? Does it go well with our gut? Now, let me also state some things about the gut aspect of it. The whole work of what we consume or eat as food is being done in the stomach. The larger one, the smaller one, and all the components of it have different assignments to do when the food comes in. But when we consume certain foods that needed another one for proper digestion, it makes the work easy for our intestine, and we experience less discomfort, less health problem, less gas, less constipation, and other pains like some people do experience. Now, if you have been experiencing certain things after food, you also have to check the list, because in this with the time we have here, the whole talk about combining food may not be exhausted, but you need also to drop your comment if you have any food, or you know that you are going through certain experiences after consuming certain foods. Then it may also be a pointer to the fact that you are combining two food that shouldn't go together. But the very common ones that don't go together, I will also be talking about it in this during this life. The main reason why a lot of us are experiencing some health issues that are not responding to some of the efforts we are making is actually because of what is going into our mouth, and the combinations that we make, because on a daily basis we are combining food, whether consciously combining it or unconsciously combining it. Consciously in the sense that you mix it together, like you cook your rice and beans, or you mix your beans and garri, or you mix whatever. Or unconsciously in the sense that you consume one food immediately and you are also following it up right away with another food. I give you an example of the way we some of the things we combine, one or two examples of the things we combine together, which we've been doing over the years, but may not even know the impact. Combining food, drinking water while eating is a poor combination. Though this combination is not directly, because I said directly or indirectly, It's not directly mixed together. But before now, we ate foods and we drank water innocently. And several other health problems also were coming up, but we didn't know the cause. Another thing we also do ignorantly also is after food, we start consuming fruits. Consuming fruit, it was not even until recently that many people got the awareness, including myself. It is not as if I knew all this all the while. Several years ago, we enjoyed our fruit. We believed that our fruits should be consumed after our food. But today, as a result of knowledge, increase in knowledge, education such as this, and other awareness, we now know that it's not a good combination. Though the combination is not directly mixed, but indirectly it's a combination in the sense that as soon as you finish eating your food and the stomach is ready to commence the production of hydrochloric acid to do its work, then we bring in the fruits on top of the food to spoil it. And sometimes other things we combine, like bringing in too much water. And at times you could even hear the sound as the water is apart, is separate from the food, causing things like bloating, other discomfort, even pains. Even among some middle-aged and young people, unknown to them, I have also had cases of people with stomach issues that were later traced to bad food combination, which some people may be enjoying or consuming because they were young, and after a few years, when the body is no longer as strong as it were or used to be, the body began to, show signs that it can no longer cope with such combinations. Another food combination, like bread and tea, is something that some of us enjoy a lot. We take bread, put milk, and then sometimes we join it with biscuits and everything together, and we munch it together. We did this as children, but now we know that for older adults, it's not a good combination. We know that these are two inflammatory foods. I will come to that point, why we should not also consume some certain of these foods together. When you are experiencing something like arthritis or pains, you need also to be careful of the type of food you are combining together, because it may increase your pain. When you consume, these are consequences, and the effect it has on our gut health causes poor digestion, sometimes bloating, sometimes excessive gassing, sometimes constipation, sometimes even diarrhea, sudden diarrhea. If sometimes if the stomach cannot cope, you just begin to throw up or throw out everything. And so the gut suffers, and we also suffer in turn when we consume or combine foods that shouldn't go together. And of course, we are engaged in these habits on a daily basis, and in various ways they contribute to most of the health challenges that we're going through. If you combine two carbohydrates food together, you may have a spike in your sugar, but your insulin may still be effectively doing the mop up. But over time, it may not be able to do that again. And the signs or symptoms of diabetes begins to show up. And no wonder there are more cases, more diabetic cases today than it used to be before. Because we are combining too many foods, even these days. And because of, in a bid to try to get some of the nutrients that we think we are missing out, we combine a lot of healthy foods that shouldn't go together. When you combine them, it has effect on our blood sugar, it has effect on our blood pressure, it has effect on inflammations, it has effect on our heart and our general well-being. Those who are experiencing high blood pressure, after combining such foods, we usually experience elevated blood pressure. I have witnessed it. I have also managed some cases and observed that when they consumed such foods, even the very simple ones that we thought were healthy, such as rice and beans, I have heard many people argue, and even both online, that these are perfect. I was actually also doing that before. But when you get to certain age, your body may be the best advocate to inform you that they are not the best combinations for you, even though you may have been doing well on them before. But over the years, your body may begin to go down or slow down in its activities and may no longer be able to carry such stress or work under such stress. It's also important for us to know that being aware of the food we are combining should be uppermost, especially with those managing one ailment or the other, because it is what we take in that the body uses to repair and to heal our body. So still on the subject of combining wrong foods together, most of the foods that we consume or combine wrongfully are the reason why we are experiencing so many gut problems today. Many of us do not mind whether the combination can go together or not. I know, for instance, that foods like beans and yam are two gas-forming food. two foods that produce gas, and they are two foods that are quite high in carbohydrates, but a lot of people still take them ignorantly. So when you combine, if you have been combining it together, it's important for you to have a relook or rethink or check the list and take that out, because it may also be causing your blood pressure to continue to to rise, or your blood sugar, or to increase your arthritis or other pains and inflammations. They are not just gas forming food, they are both inflammatory. And so they are not expected to be prepared. Instead, the beans should be prepared with low calorie green vegetables like onions, garlic, greens, peppers like cayenne peppers, even protein. Several years ago, I didn't know that egg and beans or egg and moi moi could go together. As a matter of fact, I intentionally avoided it because I thought these are two proteinous foods that are too high in protein. And even when I read some articles on the subject, a lot of people are still of the opinion that they are not good together. A lot of people are still also of the opinion that rice and beans are a perfect combination. I read many books on it and opinions, articles also. And that was also my opinion then, because if I had also written a book on it, I would have also given my reason why they are perfect together. But over the years, I noticed that when you consume it and check some of the vitals that I talked about, you will notice there will be the result you get will show you that those foods are not together, are not to go together. There are two carbohydrates that shouldn't go together. For instance, a lot of us, some of us like to consume bread and beans. Yes, bread and beans. They go together. We used to love it. But if you have been following us in our group, you will have noticed that I have on some occasions also cautioned on the consumption, this combination, that it is not a good one. Those who are having eye problems and similar pressures like that will also testify that it doesn't help in their case as well. So these are two inflammatory foods together, and it's not expected that they should be combined together. It's best to combine the inflammatory food with anti-inflammatory foods, vegetables, spices, low-calorie cruciferous veggies, other proteinous food. Egg is anti-inflammatory. I have on one occasion also tried beans and meat, and shockingly, I never read it anywhere. It was a good one. I just decided to give it a try for the first time ever, because of knowledge that the beans is actually high in carbohydrates, and the beans is not complete in terms of amino acid. And when you are talking of amino acid, you can find them in animal complete amino acids. Out of the 20, the complete amino acids, you will find them the essential amino acid, which the complete amino acid you will find them from the animal protein. Those that have the complete amino acids, you will find them from the animal protein. And we are usually avoiding them. But when you consume your beans or your momo or some such legumes, they don't get fully absorbed. Sometimes they are not even absorbed. You will experience high-level inflammation and delayed absorption because you did not include the animal protein that will aid its absorption. Because this is one of the reasons why foods are combined, because sometimes one helps the other for absorption, maybe for digestion, and for even assimilation. And so if you have been, taking it or maybe consuming it, believing that it's okay like that, you may have to also look at it again, because it's not a good one. It's not a good one. And if you are also combining milk, consuming tea and milk with bread or whatever, that is also not good, because it will cause serious clogging of arteries and will increase your pain, because they are two inflammatory foods together. If at all you must consume either of them, it's better to take them separately and differently on separate occasions, not together as we were taught to be, because it leads also to massive weight gain. It's one of the fastest way to cause weight gain, even though it may be tasting light while you are taking it. It tastes light, but highly acidic. And it's acidic nature that also contributes to the entire effect of causing the additional weight gain. There are also several others that we have been joining or combining for various reasons ignorantly, but knowledge can also actually help you to, reverse on these habits, so that you will experience an improvement in your health generally. If you are also in the habit of, combining caffeinated teas after consuming your iron-rich foods, like black-eyed cowpea or some other foods that are high in iron, it's not okay to take your Lipton tea on top of it, because it will hinder the absorption of the iron, and you may begin to feel some discomfort. And anytime you combine certain foods and consume, or you are feeling discomfort in your stomach, the first thing to do is to ask yourself what and what you may be the cause, and in what way you have contributed through what you consumed or what you ate. Most times when I meet with people and when they complain of gut issues, of course, the first suspect I always do is you. What and what have you taken? I do the same to myself. And I expect you to always do the same. Each time you notice that you are experiencing gas, excess gas, gassing is good. It's not that it's bad altogether. But when the gas is excess, it's actually a pointer that what you have consumed is stressing the intestine. I used to do some, poor combinations. So much. I don't know why, but until recently, I used to, after consuming something like beans, I just have the mind or start feeling like I should consume peanuts. The reason was unknown, but I've actually found out also that it aids digestion. And I want you to pay attention, because sometimes the brain is the one that gives us signal that something is needed. And so we just go for it. Now, in the process of trying to reduce oil in the diet, in the food, sometimes I cook my food, certain food, with less oil, like bitter leaf soup. It needs a lot of oil for absorption. Yes, foods like that, bitter leaf, because most vegetables are also like that. So if you are trying to avoid disease, or you're trying to prevent disease, or you're trying to manage disease, it's not okay to focus on the oil, because you are feeling bad symptoms arising from the bad oils that you have taken before. So most times you have that tendency to want to withdraw from adding oil to your diet. And so this was some of the things I was doing. So because of myself and my spouse, I would just, especially himself, because of the health status, so I would just say, okay, let me add just very little oil. So when I add the oil, I now notice that after eating the food, I'm feeling like I want to eat peanuts. So I always have nuts at home, only to discover that after enjoying the peanuts, you just naturally just want to consume peanuts, only to discover that after consuming the peanuts, it's now gas all over the place. The gas will continue, water. And when this thing persisted, I knew that it was a bad combination. I didn't have to contact the internet, or I didn't have to go read or ask anybody, but my body has already spoken. And that is what I expect each and every one of us to do. Your body is the first one to speak. And when it speaks, you have to listen. So I was doing it. But each time I consumed beans, and what was actually responsible for that testing for peanut is actually because there is most likely because there is not enough oil in the diet, in the food prepared. The same thing happens with bitter leaf soup. Once it's prepared and there's no sufficient oil, because we are all afraid of oil, red palm oil, we don't want to add weight, we don't want to clog arteries, we don't want this, even though it has benefit for the eye, we don't want this, we don't want that, so we just put a little drop. And so when the food, when it gets into the intestine, it starts looking for oil. And the brain will give you a signal. Somehow you will notice a strong desire towards peanuts after no other food but peanuts after eating that soup or that beans. So each time, although when it is done with foods like bitter leaf, it doesn't cause gas. It doesn't cause gas. That's my own experience, I'm telling you. There will be no gas. Everywhere will be calm. You sleep well. Just as long as I didn't take too much of it. Because the temptation to overdo is always there. So most times I just take two. I've learned how to control my consumption because of before now. I just take, and before I know it, I've already exceeded what I should take. So I now notice that it does not produce gas after taking it, after consuming bitter leaf soup and taking it, the peanuts or any other nut like cashew nut. Cashew nut is better, but peanut is the worst. If you take a little of it, it doesn't cause much trouble, but peanut is the worst. The stomach will be like it's at war, and the gas it will be producing will be so toxic. You know what I mean by so toxic. So these signals and messages from my own body are the best instrument that tells me when a food is poorly combined and when to stop it. Despite that, sometimes the temptation comes to take it again, but I often resist it because I know the consequence of combining this food. When after consuming beans or just beans with all the light and low calorie veggies and start feeling like consuming peanut, because peanut contains oil and fat, and so the food needs oil to digest. Just like you put something in a machine and you want to grind it, just you pour tomato or any of the foods we grind, popular foods we grind, you pour it inside a grinder and you didn't put a little water. I mean, for those that need water to grind or to blend, you will see it will make a lot of noise. Sometimes I've tried to blend certain things with my blender and just be cracking, just until you put water. And so that's what happens to us. So when you are trying to understand the list of foods to avoid in terms of combining, which ones to combine or which ones not to combine, the list is endless. And that is why there is one solution I have provided for you, and that is what is working for me. Because there is no way you can go through in the internet anywhere. I've read through some articles too. They are not saying the same thing with me. It's just to see what others are saying. At times it's good. But they don't have the same opinion that I have. some of them don't have the same experience I have. Some are recommending beans and yam. Of course, when I see some of them, I know that the person may be writing from his or her age perspective. Because if the person is a 30 years old, he may not understand, and maybe just a blogger writing something. He will just write it, rice and beans, or beans and yam, beans and all this stuff. But when the person, by the grace of God, lives up to 55, 60, some of the things he or she wrote that were good for consumption and healthy, the person may go back and edit it. That's the truth. That is the truth. Because though you were seeing them, and what is wrong with you ate it, your body was able to manage it. So what's wrong with that? So you can even come and be challenging me and say, what is this mama talking about? She's saying that beans, my favorite food, beans and bread, is not okay. But that is exactly what I'm saying when you combine it together. I'm not saying that the healthy foods could be combined and they will work effectively together. But when you want to make a complete list of foods to combine and foods not to combine, you definitely won't get all the list. And even if you get it or copy it out somewhere, it may not work the same way for you, the way it worked for the writer, because our bodies are different. Yes, our blood group are different. The genotype are not the same. So the best instrument still, as I have used my own case as an example, is for you to listen to what your body is saying. When you combine the food and the stomach starts shooting gas, and the gas is toxic, you know that this is food poisoning already. You have already poisoned the earlier food with the one you put on top of it. So we should be aware of it, because in some severe cases where the immune system is low and where some other health issues are involved, it could lead to hospitalization, as a matter of fact. I mean, it could become a real hospital emergency when we combine foods that are not supposed to go together. It's as serious as that. Some people, like when you are talking of consuming acidic foods like citric food that are high in citric acid, they are better consumed along with iron-rich food, or after or before, whichever, but they help the absorption of iron. I mean the vitamin C. They help the absorption of iron. And for instance, another combination which I have found out in my own aspect, which it doesn't go well, is when you combine raw banana with protein. In fact, it's not a good combination. For me, I've already put it down. I attempted it at one time but I couldn't finish the experiment. Because certain things that I do, sometimes I want to test it, since I am teaching others too. And I have people who are following me, who want to hear from me. I also want to test the thing on myself, so that I know. But when I'm testing it, I do so cautiously, so that it doesn't lead to dangerous emergency. So when you are consuming banana, you should be careful what you are combining with it. We like to combine it with peanuts, Even up to today, once in a while, I still, because of sugar and whatever, I still want to add it because it doesn't actually manifest. Um, it doesn't actually come up with, you know, aggressive response, that negative response that could make you be afraid, like combining it with beans or other stuff. But when you combine banana, which is high in calorie, with foods like cucumber, you blend cucumber and you put it with banana, you will love it, especially if you are trying to lose weight. So when you will combine that banana with peanuts, like we used to love it, including myself, you will notice that it will cause weight gain. And though it tastes better, but it's not the best for those who want to lose weight. But you can take maybe other nuts, maybe before or after. If you're afraid of blood sugar, there is reduce its consumption, but they actually not perfectly together because of some other factors, or for those who are going through pains. Consuming, for those who are diabetic, you can consume banana with this cucumber I'm talking in small amount, instead of saying you will forever not taste banana, because banana actually causes a spike in blood sugar. So when you see a food that causes a spike in blood sugar, what I do is to combine it with the one that reduces blood sugar. Such foods like tamarind, combine it with cloves. You can blend a few cloves inside, because if you consume tamarind, it has a lot of health benefit. But if you consume it alone, very high vitamin C, moon boosting, perfect. But I would observe that it causes a serious spike in blood sugar. And so how do you consume such foods? You look for another one that lowers blood sugar. We have them like cloves, like chia seed, like cinnamon, even ginger. You can put ginger, is mildly anti-inflammatory and not really, but it can help to fight that tendency to cause inflammation, because once the sugar is high in the body, it begins to cause inflammations. So when you are considering for diabetics which foods, it's not okay to run away from all the foods, because most of them are actually high in sugar. For instance, I was avoiding rice for a long time, not knowing that the kaolin in rice, I was missing out. So despite all the efforts, sometimes I see go on experiencing insomnia. Yes, because that aspect or nutrient is missing, until I now changed and began to make some experiments on which food to combine. The list is endless. And I found out that combining it with chicken or turkey and vegetables, the blood sugar is perfect. Add a little of tomatoes and other things you love, the local condiments, iru, and all those stuff that we love. Combine it. You use organic peanut oil, you have a very beautiful food that you eat, enjoy. Put cinnamon and all those stuff that will help with insulin in the body. And so it's going to help it's going to help the body. Not when you consume it like that, the next day you check your sugar, you will notice that there will be no spike, especially if you don't consume it late night. Because I must warn us, late night food is not okay, whether it's a healthy food or it's not a healthy food. no matter how, even some fruits are not good. And when you consume them in large amounts, I have also noticed it at night. Food high in sugar, you shouldn't consume them before going to bed. You shouldn't consume two sugary foods together. I see a lot of smoothies online full of sugar. Haba, full of sugar. Although it's not as if to say sugar is altogether bad, that we should throw sugar away. We need it at all times. But for us to maintain that stability in our blood sugar, we need to always include some spices which Mother Nature has provided to reduce the spike, the way the body, or to help the body to produce insulin, or to help to reduce the inflammatory response which the body may want to give up because of the sugar that emanated from the food. And so that is why, as we are getting younger, I mean, on the other way, not older, not really younger, but we need to be more careful with the food we are combining. And one of the points I want to make here is that it's not okay to stay away from, in fact, from any food. I did that before, but I have also rescinded my decision on it, because you'll be losing out. The only thing to do is to combine that food with another food to counter the way your body takes it. For instance, many people are not aware that yam is quite high in sugar. The glycemic index is very high. It's a food we love a lot. Potatoes, a lot of people are complaining too that it's too heavy, which is true. Unripe line, everything has a problem as we get older. But now what I do when I want to prepare my yam or sweet potato or my cassava or whichever, although I don't add it to cassava, I add some cinnamon powder into it as it's cooking and about to be ready. I sprinkle it a little, sprinkle some turmeric and ginger mix, which I already produce and keep, and use it to sprinkle, and it changes the color. Instead of being very white, it has a slightly yellow and brown or whatever. And so when you consume it, if you're a diabetic and it's given to you, you will notice that how your body takes it and reacts. Because of this combination, when you take it and thereafter check your sugar, you will notice that combining food rightly is a beautiful thing. Only when you do it, it's a beautiful thing. Combining it, it's a beautiful thing. And that combining of the food, right and proper combination, will ensure that you don't even abstain or avoid anyone at all. Because if you have sufficient knowledge on what these foods, the nutrients are, and how they operate, and that's why it's important. As much knowledge as we can gather, it's important to gather them. But when you put the foods together that have a kind of synergy, that one is bringing what the other one is not putting on the table, you'll be able to combine, enjoy yourself. Honestly, you won't just be saying this food is this. How long? What is the list of food that you can produce that doesn't have sugar at the end of the day? And then when you keep avoiding, over time, deficiency of certain minerals will set in. And that is the aspect we are also trying to guard against. And that's the essence of combining the foods. When you combine foods that should go together, you definitely won't lose out those nutrients that are out because you are trying to avoid. I no longer avoid yam, sweet potatoes, my cassava, rice. I did some of them several years. I was trying to be mindful of sugar, blah, blah, all this stuff. But no, my dear, you don't have to. With the knowledge of combining foods together, you don't have anything to worry about. When you are consuming a starchy food, you should put green vegetables. This green vegetable is anti-inflammatory. Then you combine it with an inflammatory food. And then you use anti-inflammatory spices and other proteins to chalk it up. And it's not going to give you any problem. But when you are combining two inflammatory foods together, two acidic foods together, two sweet foods together, joining a smoothie, maybe you go buy pineapple, you buy watermelon, you buy golden melon, and all the stuff, and blend together, including banana, you won't get the result you're expecting. If you must consume them together at all, if at all, which I do not recommend, more than two sweet fruits together, not at all. Don't recommend it. But if you even will do that, you must begin to look for a combination from the spices kingdom, where you are going to source a spice, either cloves, either cinnamon, or fennel, or any other one, fenugreek seeds, which you are going to use to combine and neutralize what the other one, the ugly side of the other one. You will use it to neutralize it. Foods like soya beans. Soya beans is a beautiful, complete food with amino acid. Of course, I always have it in my home. Only that I'm reducing the consumption over time, but it's one of the foods I have all the time, the soya bean powder, well processed. But now, because it's a goitronin food, it's important to add things that will also combine things that will neutralize, because when the goitronin effect comes to play, this whatever may begin to show up. I have actually met some people, a handful of people, who out of ignorance were still consuming the soya bean without anything to counter it. But there are foods that can help. If you consume it, make sure you put egg, or you take cold pressed coconut oil. These are things that counter it. Crayfish, you can, if you are doing the dried one, can put some dried crayfish there to help to provide small iodine to boost it. But otherwise, you ensure that you also add, and because it's inflammatory, it's a good food, but the soya bean is inflammatory. So you must ensure to also use combine it with something that is anti-inflammatory, so as to be able to counter its effect of raising inflammations in the body, though it's a healthy one, but must be consumed with caution. So we need to, understand that there is no need to continue avoiding all the foods. Proper combining of foods will help you. Proper digestion, proper absorption, more nutrients availability, low inflammation, reduced risk of diseases like diabetes, high blood pressure, obesity, and several others if we combine the right foods together. Don't forget to click the subscribe button because I shall be coming your way with more eye-opening topics like this. Stay healthy naturally till I come your way again. Food remains our medicine, but moderation is our rule.